Welcome. You've now been locked into an episode of Dad Tough. Dad Tough. Bringing you your weekly injection of any and everything dad, husband, and man. So sit back, grab a beer, get rid of that pesky wife and kids, and get ready to dive into fatherhood, marriage, men's health, youth sports, and a bunch more nonsense coming straight to your screen, headphones, and into your hearts. Sometimes being a dad is tough, and sometimes you gotta be tough to be dad. Are you dad tough?
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Dad Tough. I'm your host, Blake Brown, and today we're sitting with Mr. David Stephans, a guy that I've been talking to over the past couple weeks about getting in here, doing a little bit of a podcast about some marriage and relationships. Man, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Man, doing pretty good. Trying to recuperate from the 4th of July yesterday. Man, had a great time. Great time.
Yeah. 4th of July can be a big party.
Oh, yeah, it definitely was for me, man. Like I said, I was telling you earlier, I thought I was going to have to do this episode with my sunglasses on. I kind of didn't feel myself when I first got into the studio this morning, but, man, I think I've come around.
All right. Yeah, you look fine.
Oh, yeah. But, man, we're going to start this thing off right. We are going to do what I call a shot and a story, where we take shots and you tell us a little bit about yourself. This segment is brought to you by High Ridge Spirits, the distillery. If you've not checked this place out, guys, and you are local in the Florence, Alabama area, definitely check these people out. They've got live music almost every day of the week. Their alcohol is phenomenal. They also have open mic nights on every Wednesday. So if you want to sing a song, if you want to tell a joke, if you want to read a story, whatever the case may be, make sure you get signed up on that list. Today, I'm going to be drinking some damn good vodka. I think I've done this on a previous episode, man, and it is damn good vodka. It really is, man. They've got some really good alcohol there. I actually the first time I went there, they had this, it was a homemade apple pie moonshine. And, man, let me tell you, it tastes like grandma's pie with a little bit of liquor in it. Heck yeah. What you drinking, Mr. Stephans?
So I'm in Idaho. And we have of course, we do potatoes, so we do vodka here as well. It's called 44 North. Get it in the camera. There you go, 44. And it's a huckleberry flavored. So it's pretty good. And I'll take a shot with you.
Let's do it. Down the hatch. Whew. That sets real good on that all that tequila I drank last night.
Well, just keep it going, man.
Oh yeah, just keep it going. That's what they say. The best thing about a hangover is just waking up the next morning, and just starting it all over again.
There you go.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So let me not go all the way back. Let me just start with more of my professional experience. I was in the Air Force for 23 years. I was a finance officer, and, I had a different experience when it came to the military. I have a lot of admiration for the guys that go out there on the front line, put their lives in the middle of firefights and things like that. Main reason that people want to shoot finance guys is they want our money. And so we're not usually out. We're usually back, especially because I was in the Air Force. And so we stay back with the airplanes farther away, kind of protected. So wasn't a whole lot of frontline combat sort of thing.
Right.
And where my challenge and kind of where I think we're going to go talk about is I really kind of drank the Kool-Aid when I came into the military. They told me, hey, as an officer, we want you to come in and we want you to use your brain to try and improve things to make it better for everybody. And I spent my 23 years believing that. And I spent a lot of time banging my head against the wall, trying to accomplish it to make it better for our airmen. And it had a pretty significant impact on me in that I think it is really what contributed to a lot of depression. And so I'm retired now. I'm proud that I got to serve. And I wish I'd gone into it with a different set of eyes. But out of the Air Force, I did get a couple of really good things, positive and negative. They taught us how to solve problems. And I'm all about this concept of less is more. And as I learn about how to solve problems, I will break things down into the most basic element, which they taught me to do. Because they said, hey, 80% of solving any problem, step number 1, identify the actual problem. So I've taken that concept and I've applied it to my life. The other thing that really was kind of changing as far as opening my eyes is I spent 5 years inside the 5-sided nut house in Washington, D.C., known as the Pentagon. And I saw exactly how dysfunctional what it is we try and do. Good people trying to do stuff, but it's really tough. And although the Air Force will tell me how to solve a problem, tell me it wants to make things better, it's just words.
Right. I actually know quite a few guys that kind of had the same similar experiences you have, man. They come in, man, all gung ho, ready to, fight for their country and do what's right, and kind of trying to, fix problems and make, the world a better place. And they've come out and they're like, man, that was probably one of the worst decisions I ever made. And I was like, really? Like, you wouldn't think that. You really wouldn't think that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the best decisions I made because it made me who I am.
Right.
Both in that it shaped me. I joined the military for 3 reasons, and pretty much in this order. Number 1, I needed a job coming out of college. Number 2, I wanted to travel and see the world, and I liked the fact I could do it on somebody else's dime. And number 3, I got the opportunity to serve my country.
Right.
And where I'm at today and the way I think and the way I do things is based on 48 years of experience, because I'm 48 years old.
Right.
And it's all shaped who I am, the good and the bad.
That's kind of me, man. I've kind of went through some life experiences myself, and I've had to learn through those experiences. And like you said, it kind of made you who you are. So I kind of feel that. Personally, I've never served in the military, but I've been through some things in life myself that was definitely challenging. But they, like you said, they've made me who I am today.
Yep. Yeah, and just kind of going along with the theme in our talk. So coming out of the military, I'd been treated probably 21 of my years in the military for depression. Right. And of course, the typical way we treat depression these days is go to the doctor, give me a pill, and hope I'm going to feel better. And a lot of counseling that goes along with it, but I could just never figure out what the heck was bringing me down.
Right.
And I got married twice. Actually, I got married 3 times, just twice to the same woman who I'm currently going through a divorce with. And as I got out of the military, the VA actually gave me a disability rating that gave me the ability to continue to get therapy and service through the VA for the depression. And the depression really kind of is more of a seasonal thing where, I think naturally we want to hibernate like bears in the wintertime.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. If the sun's not shining, I kind of just feel down and out.
Yep. So definitely this kind of element of you feel down and then you feel up. Well, in the psychology world, that's called bipolar.
Right.
the reality is bipolar is a spectrum because we all feel it. We all have good, we all have bad. And by the time I was out of the military, that's where they were at, diagnosing me as bipolar. And my current wife I allowed her to play a pretty significant role in that diagnosis. Been working with a counselor with the VA for the last 11 months. And about 2 months ago, he said, Dave, you've told me a whole lot about yourself. I think you seem pretty smart. You seem pretty well-spoken and that sort of thing. I'm not exactly sure where this, self-doubt, kind of self-loathing is coming from, but you've told me a lot about your wife and a lot of what's been going on. In fact, she had secretly recorded some conversations, one of which I had shared with him. And I was in a pretty bad light in those. I'd been drinking, she and I had a rocky relationship, separated, not separated. And when I shared that with him, she was hoping, because she asked me to share it with him, that it was going to answer questions for him. So what he said to me was, David, I'm going to read you the definition of gaslighting. And I want you to tell me if this resonates with you. And what resonated from it were basically two things. The first one is it's a form of mental abuse. And it stems from the person who is the gaslighter needing to control things, usually out of anxiety or something like that. And in its extreme fashion, the gaslighter basically needs to alter reality. They need to tell, they're going to tell you remembered things wrong. Right. You whatever. And so the second part that really resonated with me is you stopped trusting yourself. And I'll tell you what, when he uttered those words, I was like, that's exactly what's happened to me. And I attempted to try and talk to my wife about it. I did a little more research on it. She fit the bill, mental abuse from her parents growing up, and several other factors that were in there. And I was like, holy shit.
Right.
And gaslighters don't want to deal with, none of us want to deal with our shit, right? No, we all have it. Nobody wants to deal with it. But in particular, because it's a defense mechanism and it's pretty central to their character, she had nothing to do with it. And the day that I walked out was when she sent me a text from the other room because she was mad at me about why gaslighters gaslight. And I said, this is a bunch of shit. She's going to now accuse me of being a gaslighter. And I've been accused of being a narcissist, bipolar, all this crap.
It's like psychological warfare.
What my doctor also said is your wife has weaponized your bipolarism against you. And because of that, it's doing nothing. As I describe it, it's like being a tiger in a cage. You want to, get out, express yourself, be free. Do what I'm doing here. I've got a voice. I want to make it heard because I've got something to say. I got many things to say. And she couldn't handle it. She's a very private person. And she would tell me, David, what you got to say is stupid. It's childish. Stop doing it. And get back in your cage because you make me feel uncomfortable. Wow. And I'm not proud of it, but for self-preservation, I walked out of the house. Her dad was there with our 2-year-old getting ready for, in the next 3 weeks, she was giving birth. So I had a brand new baby on the way. And I felt I had to do it because I'd been told about it. I tried to talk to her about it. It was not going to be accepted. And I wasn't going to continue to live my life like that. So, and then Well, let me pause there. Anything you want to throw out or ask on that? Because I get it. I get it. You know, she'll throw it in my face along with a lot of other people. You walked out on your wife 8 months pregnant.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
I
yeah,
did.
yeah. I mean, women sometimes do, and men both. They do sometimes, try to make you feel bad, to try to draw you back in. I mean, that's what I feel. I've dealt with it. Myself. Obviously, I mean, not with my wife, but yeah, like I mean, you're trying to think of the word I'm looking for here. Well, anyway, regardless, that's a crappy situation. But I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Sure.
I mean, especially when you feel like you've been beaten up mentally for apparently a pretty long time. Seems like, and I mean, sometimes you just have to leave.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you just have to leave, regardless of what your situation may be. And I wish I would have done that a few times in some of my previous relationships. Kind of like you said, I kind of went through the same thing in a sense. I didn't leave just for the fact that I didn't want to be labeled as the guy that left the pregnant woman.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
if I would have just left at that point, I would have. And there's a lot of things that would not have happened that I wish wouldn't have happened. If it wouldn't have happened if I would have just left. You try to stick around, you try to stay around just to to be the dad, to be the good man, but
Sure.
sometimes I mean it's sometimes it's just better just to like you did, just leave.
Well, it's counterintuitive. You want to stay together for the kids, but if your relationship is so one-sided, detrimental. I mean, I'd never heard of gaslighting, but it
Right.
all made sense. I mean, I would say it was like a rebirth understanding of something that was obvious, but I was ignorant to.
Right.
And so it just made sense. Now, I would tell you when I walked out the door, in my mind, I was getting divorced. I obviously hadn't filed anything or anything like that, so who knows where it would have gone. But until there was going to be some admission or some let's work on this, the only thing I got from her was let me talk to your doctor again, like I have your previous doctors, and tell them, what the fuck is wrong with you.
Right.
With nothing on her, no understanding on her side.
Yeah, and that's crazy, man. I mean, she pretty much just, I mean, threw you under the bus. I mean, that's pretty much what it was.
In her defense,
Mm-hmm.
because I try and be objective about things, gaslighting is passed down, and it is generally, well, I shouldn't say generally, it's conscious or unconscious. So if you experienced it and you've done things in your life to alter your reality, particularly as a child,
Mm-hmm.
you learn to do that and need to continue doing that as an adult. And if you're just the only way in which you feel like you can feel comfortable and feel good is to try and control the world around you, which is a fool's game.
Right.
Right? Most of us don't try. Well, a lot of us do try and do it. That's what'll build your anxiety and your depression through the roof, is trying to control things that really just sit back and kind of roll with the punches a bit more,
Right.
as opposed to trying to plan everything out or trying to make sure that everybody likes you, because that's
Yeah.
a fool's
Yeah.
game as well. So, and needing to be me. And you kind of mentioned how long I've been putting up with it. Well, she and I were basically together for about 9 years.
Oh yeah.
We got married, and within 4 months, we were having a pretty significant issue that I would say almost led to divorce then, kept trying to work through it. And within 2 years of our first marriage, got divorced. I told her if I ever, because I was in an elevated state, which to me, if you're depressed and you come up, that's an elevation, right?
Right.
And you want to be up a little bit because you want to feel good.
Right.
The symptoms of mania are much more extreme, and I only exhibited small parts. I didn't go out and blow tons of money, engage in super risky behavior,
Right.
but those sorts of things. And let's face it, there's no blood test. You don't go get examined and find out, oh yeah, you're bipolar or not. It's just somebody's opinion.
Right.
So anyway, I told her if I ever got depressed again, then I would let her know. And the winter hit. We got divorced in August. The winter hit. She'd been reaching out to me, which again, it's pretty typical of a gaslighter. They want somebody to control.
Right.
And if they know that they've got a victim, I don't like to play victim, but if they've got somebody who they've been able to control, they're going to try and bring those people back into their life.
Right.
And she did, and I was convinced again that I was the problem, or the significant part of the problem. And on the plus side, I ended up getting out of the military 9 months into my last assignment and moving back to be with her in Idaho. So I had a soft landing out of the military, a place to go. She had all that, and feeling very responsible, wanted to try and make amends, and got remarried. And that will have been basically just over 2 years again.
Right.
But we're in the final throes. We just went through mediation last week.
That's rough.
Be glad to talk about. Well, it's kind of funny. Yeah, it wasn't as tough as I thought it was going to be.
Really?
She hated it. She didn't have any control.
Yeah. Now, I could see that. Absolutely. A lot of people, they go into this mediation divorce stuff thinking that, well, I'm getting this. I don't care what you say. The law says this, and then they get in that mediation room and they're like, all right, I was wrong. Like, oh my God, we do have to split the house. Well, we do have to, do all this other stuff. And, it sucks. I mean, divorce, which honestly, I've never been through a divorce. I've come close. I have come really close. But it sucks more for the kids, than it does for yourself, and I think that's what causes a lot of people to, just hang on, is the kids. Like I said earlier, I've done that before. I've hung on just for the kids, and man, if y'all just don't get along, it's better off for the kids, if you're not together. Because I wasn't, the best person in the world, back in the day. I kind of had my own issues that I was dealing with and stuff. And like I, mentioned earlier that, I was wanting to leave, but I didn't leave because I wanted to be that dad, that's always there for their kids. And, there's always this worry, when you do get a divorce, especially in a time like you did, while she was pregnant, there's always that thing in your mind. Well, what if she don't let me see the kids? What if I'm not allowed to be at the hospital to see my kid? What if my name is not on the birth certificate? And there's just so many things that go on. And so you kind of, weigh out the consequences in your mind. And, it's like, is it really worth getting, a divorce right now? And
so to that point, when's the right time to get divorced?
Exactly. I mean, now looking back on, previous life experiences, like if y'all just aren't compatible, if things ain't working, and if you've tried, I do believe in trying to make your relationship work, but it has to be 100-100, from both sides. It can't be 50-50. I believe a relationship takes 100% from each person. And then, only then, if you've tried, exhausted all your options, and you still just can't get it going, that's when I believe a divorce is necessary. Because, that's kind of what I think about marriage, for example. Okay, first thing, you're attracted to somebody. You're, whether it's physically or emotionally, whatever the case may be. That's what sparks the whole thing with a relationship, anyways. Okay, and then you get married, or not married, but then you go on in this relationship, and I believe this is my personal stance on marriage. You get into a relationship, and then like when you're infatuated with somebody, which I call, I guess, the butterfly stage, where you got these butterflies and you just feel like you do anything in this world for this person, and you kind of go out of your own normal comfort zones to please this person because you're infatuated with them so much. And then, as time goes on, you get married, whatnot. I love you. We've been together for 6 months now, and I believe that, we're ready to get married. You're the one, and a lot of people get married in that sense. And then reality hits them about 6 to 8 months later where, the butterflies have worn off. And it's like, okay, now you get to know who this person really is.
Sure.
And I believe that's what causes a lot of divorce in itself, is you don't give yourself time to get comfortable with somebody, to get to actually know who they are. And like I said, you're going through this whole infatuation stage. You're going to go outside of your comfort zone and do things that you normally, you wouldn't do, just because you feel like this person, would make it better, for your relationship if you've done things like this. And then, time goes on, and then you finally meet, the real person. And I think that's where the conflicts, that's when most people get divorced, is when them butterfly stages, when the butterflies are gone. Now that you've met your actual person, like, I don't like you anymore. Like, you don't,
Sure.
we used to do this, we used to do that. And then, but anyways, it's a little off subject, a little off topic there, but I wanted to, talk a little bit about.
No, I was writing a couple of notes down. I'll throw out there, I could ask you questions, or I could just tell you what I think, and definitely take on anything that you think might be off. But all animals, and we are an animal, are pretty self-interested.
Right.
And we look out for ourselves. We do what we think's in our best interest. And marriage requires compromise. It requires working together to be successful.
Right.
So, like you're saying, once the infatuation, the lust, the whatever wears off, and you're like, all of a sudden, it's not on, oh, I can't go. Well, for some people, maybe it is. I can't go out with the buddies and drink all the time, or
Right.
once in a while, but just here's what Corona taught me. We had a 2-year-old. By the way, I've been a stay-at-home dad once I got out of the military and we had our son. So I've gotten to see kind of what a mom's traditional role would be, or at least a daycare provider's traditional role would be, as opposed to maybe what a dad's more conventional role is.
Right.
And I'll come back to that because I kind of want to talk about the differences in the roles if it works for what we're talking about. You mentioned something and I wanted to come back to it. And now I forgot what I was about to say. Oh, Corona. This was an eye-opener. When you're picking a partner, make sure your risk assessments and tolerances are similarly aligned. Because if your spouse is always was concerned, oh my gosh, I might die from Corona. If you go out and get it, wash your hands, wear a mask. You might bring it home and give it to the kids. You need to stay home and not go out there because I'm concerned, all in the name of safety or concern for whatever. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel that way at all. I was pissed off. I don't deny that Corona existed, but our reaction to it, in my whole estimation, was completely out of character. I mean, I have several things I've thought about when it comes to that. Do we really, what are we as Americans if we have no economy?
Right.
How do we have life, liberty, and in particular, the pursuit of happiness if we destroy our economy? Right. And we're going to do this for a very small chance of dying. Because most people who get this virus, according to the experts, just don't have symptoms. They don't even know they have it.
Right.
But
did you end up getting it?
No.
No, I did.
I didn't.
You did? I did.
And what was your experience with it?
Honestly, it wasn't. I mean, now I know it affects the elderly a little different, and kids. It affects everybody different. But for me, honestly, it was like a 2-week vacation during hunting season that I stayed out in a tree stand and I isolated myself from everybody except the deer. Like for 2 weeks, that's what I did.
That's awesome. See, take a lemon and make some lemonade out of it. I mean,
That's
there's
right.
always a pro and a con to things, and in whatever position you take on something, think about the inverse of it. How do I either make it better, or
Right.
what's the counter argument, and take a different perspective on things, and kind of going back to how I look at the world and try and solve problems. And of course, I forget exactly what my point was, but the yeah. So I mean, I went out and protested. First time, very proud of it. That I was pissed off that they were shutting down businesses, and we had the backbone of our country, small businesses, being told what I believed unconstitutionally, you're not allowed to operate. And what was ironic about it is my wife was the one who even told me about the protest. But yet she'd asked me to wear a mask. I went down there. Nobody's wearing a mask. I didn't wear a mask. I posted it on Facebook. Next thing you know, I'm trying to kill the family.
Right.
So I throw that out there as something I really didn't consider when it comes to risk tolerance. But it is important because you're going to have to compromise with your spouse.
Right.
And if you guys don't view the world the same way, guaranteed, especially if you have children, you're going to have conflict.
Right.
Bigger conflict than you might realize. So, but
And Corona, man, the Corona itself kind of put a lot of people's marriages up under a microscope.
Sure.
Because you got people that were laid off work. They were drawing their unemployment and whatnot, and then you get stuck at home. And you get out of your schedule, out of your element, and you're stuck at home with your spouse. Like you're either going to make it or you're going to break it.
Yeah, it's like forced empty nest syndrome early, right?
Right.
Except for you do have a kid there, but man, you got to wake up every day,
Yeah.
look at each other in each other's sweats,
Yeah.
and I mean that was kind of typical for me being a stay-at-home dad. But I'll pivot just a little bit to something you said about staying together for the kids and that sort of thing. What I kind of realized is a lot of society, feminism, that sort of idea of society likes to say women can do anything that men can do. And for the most part, I don't disagree with that. But when it comes to children, and when it kind of comes to human nature, women are nurturers, men want to kill things.
Right.
Because you think back on it, right? There's some good reasons for it too. And being a stay-at-home dad was fine, but it wasn't very fulfilling.
Right.
And I'm sure even for women, they kind of, if they're stay-at-home mom, it gets arduous and so forth. But now as I kind of go into the idea of being a single dad, I think I can do what a dad needs to do without being with my kids 24/7 or every night when they go to bed. Because I think my role as a father, I've got boys as well, so I'm fortunate in that because I don't know how in the world I'd raise a girl. But my goal in life, and what I think is actually important for parents to teach their kids, and particularly dads, are two things: how to think critically and how to manage money, personal finance. And I'm sure plenty of people can come up with all sorts of other things, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure what else will serve my children better. Even if somebody says, hey, I'm religious and I really want my kids to believe the way I do you not want them to come to those conclusions by critically thinking about things? Do you just want to shove it down their throat and make them do it?
Right.
So I just throw that out there as I believe, and I'm going to test it. I can do my job well as a single father by simply dedicating the time that I do have, which is now more precious because I'm not spending all day,
Right.
trying to entertain my kids. So that gives me some optimism.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one thing I've always preached, like me and my oldest son's mom, we have some disagreements sometimes, which I mean everybody does, but when it comes down to it, like, my saying is, hey, your job is to nurture. My job is to make sure that he's a successful man, when as he gets older. And like you said, man,
Yep.
financial and critical thinking and putting him in, situations that, aren't necessarily, I guess, ideal for them at the time. They may not like, certain things that you do for them. But it's all, I look at life as, we're going to do this. And then hopefully one day when you're older, you'll look back and be like, man, I'm really glad that we done that, because it's
Sure.
got me to where I am today, and
Sure.
that's the thing with kids these days, man, is I think they're in a bubble. Like they're desensitized to so many different things just because of the comfortability. Speaking of like when you were a kid versus when I was a kid, I don't know about you, but I was a 1990s kid. That was kind of the era where you still went outside and played, like, I mean, me anyways. I mean, my mom didn't care what I did. So I'd be gone from morning to past dark, just running around. And now, as time has evolved and technology has evolved, you find these kids that are, that suffer through a lot more depression and, other different, symptoms of being, secluded, in a house, let's say, like, for example, with like video games. Video games, I played video games when I was a kid. I still play video games as an adult. But it's different, now versus then, because back then it was, barely animated. It was just crap quality, and now, it's gotten so much better. And it's caused an addiction within itself to kids. And a lot of parents, they use that as, I'm not saying every parent, but a lot of parents use that as kind of a babysitter, dads included. And that kind of gets them out of that responsibility of putting them in these situations to where, they'll learn life quality skills and things like that. And, that's kind of, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I said. I put my kid, my oldest, especially my oldest, man, we work hard. We really do. And there's a lot of times that he's like, I just really don't want to do this. And it's like, well, I hate to tell you this, but, we're going to do this because it benefits you. And then versus like his mom, it's like, well, baby, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, So, the role as a father to me is to make those things on your time happen, no matter what it is, as long as it benefits your kid in a way to help them. As like I said earlier, being a dad to me is teaching your kid to be a man from I would say around 8, 9 years old up. That's when you're going to start instilling some of these qualities and characteristics, in them. Versus, like I said, the mom thing where they're the nurturer, which I kind of went off subject a little bit there.
No, you're good. What would you say are your top two? I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit.
Oh man, here we go.
What are your top two situations you put your kids into to try and instill that? And you've already told me one of them.
Sports is one.
Yeah, I knew that.
Sports is one, man. I believe sports is one of the best things you can do for a kid. I really do. And I will always believe that. Now, I'm not saying for every kid. There are some kids that, that just doesn't get it, athletically, physically, and they may do other things. But when your kid's got the ability, I'm not going to put my kid in a situation to fail. If he's, if he can't run, I'm not going to put him in cross country. It's just not, it's not going to happen. But as far as, you pick different qualities that they have, and I apply it to sports, man, because a sports is a place where you can put a kid in a situation for them to fail.
Yep.
And they build in the character that they build from that. You know, like my son, for instance, like he's won the football championship 3 years in a row. And I'm just waiting for that loss, that 1 year that he doesn't get it, because I want him to experience that impact. Because because it develops character, it develops friendship, it develops bond, it develops drive. And another thing that I've put my kid in the situation for, and he actually enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it myself. I didn't think I would, but he sung in the car a lot. Like, he can sing. I mean, he's got a decent voice for a kid. I mean, he really was. And I was kind of going through this life change myself to where, how can I be the best dad that I can be? Because I'm not going to lie, I was pushy on a lot of things. Like, I don't care if you want to do this or not, we're going to do it. And there's a lot of times that I took my kid and put him in a situation that he didn't want to do because he didn't enjoy it, but because I enjoyed it, I felt like he should enjoy it. And that's a good thing about fatherhood, man. That's one of my best qualities of being a dad, is being adaptable. Just because over the past couple of years, that I was this dad that, wanted to, I guess you could say in a sense, but not really, but I'm going to use it as an example, live vicariously through my kids, which a lot of parents do. And I can acknowledge that now, just because of some things that I've went through, some trying to find myself as a man, as a husband, as a dad. But anyways, back on track, so he sang, and, he's always wanting to do YouTube videos and stuff like that. And so I put him, there was a play in school. It was actually a musical. It was The Sound of Music. And so I put him in that situation. And he was like, I don't know if I want to do that or not, because more of the sense of he was embarrassed, type thing. I was like, well, I'll tell you what. You go audition, try out, and if you make it, hey, you got a choice to make. If you don't make it, then you don't have to worry about it.
Choice is made for you.
That's right. That's right. So, he went and he auditioned, and, man, he made it. I said, kid's great. And, man, that was one of the most humbling experiences, even for myself, because just watching him enjoy that. And I put him in that situation, but I gave him a choice. I did. I was like, you're going to audition. That's me pushing you as a father. That's me trying to, try to get you out of your comfort zone, while, in a sense, getting me out of my comfort zone as well, because, I thought theater, my mindset was, men don't do that stuff, real men, masculine men don't do that stuff. But like I said, I've learned a lot about myself over time. So he tried out, he made it, he decided to make it, or decided that he wanted to pursue it. And it was honestly it was amazing. Like, I've never seen him get so much joy, out of that, out of anything, even sports. This kid's won 3 championships back to back to back. And I've never seen a smile on his face like I did through that it was a couple months of, auditioning and doing the rehearsals and getting ready for it. And it was a great experience. But like I said, I believe in pushing your kids and putting them in situations like that. And I said, I'm not going to put them in a crap situation like, well, here's a car and, go do your thing, whatever. But I think it's, really vital for your kids to put them in different situations to help them progress as a person, as a young man, as a young woman, whatever the situation may be. But yeah.
Well, I noticed and I liked how you kind of lit up. Telling those two, you know what? You lit up when I asked you the question. You answered the sports quickly, but you're really proud.
I am.
Of your son going in and you encouraging him to do the musical. And I think, we never should stop growing and learning as adults and as parents. Nobody gets this stuff right.
No, there's no book. There's no manual on how to be the best dad.
There are, but who cares? Who cares? And you mentioned something else, and this is how I look at the world. The best way to learn and progress is to try, fail, learn,
try again,
repeat, and if you can do it quickly.
Yes, sir.
Right? and then just do it over and over. And what's wrong with the idea of experimentation? What's wrong with thinking I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to get it right the first time. I just need to try and see what comes of it. And I'm going to learn something if I'm good or if I'm bad at it.
Right. And that's one
But I'll
thing.
never know if I don't try.
Right. And that's one thing I struggle with my oldest. My oldest, he likes to be first in everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of his downfalls, is he wants to be the best. But at the same time, let's say, for example, he wants to be the fastest kid in the world, but he expects to wake up tomorrow and just be the fastest kid in the world and not put in that work for it. And that, as a man, as a father, like, that pushes me to push him. Like, hey, you want this goal, you've got to set, expectations, and you've got to meet those. Like, you can't just wake up and be, the fastest kid in the world. You can't wake up and be the best of whatever. Like, and this is what I preach. I do a kid conditioning camp during the summer to help kids get ready for football. And, my motto is anything in this world worth having, you have to work for. If it's free, it ain't worth nothing. And so, you find your kids in those situations, and that's where it kind of comes into where, you and another parent that doesn't have the same mindset, you kind of bump heads, because it's like, well, I don't want to go to Dad's house because we got to go run.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's vital in your kid's life is just because they may not like you for it at that point in time doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And I think that's where a lot of people mess up at. It's like, well, I know this is great for my kid, but, little Johnny don't want to do it. So we're just not going to do it.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So you brought up depression a minute ago and what you think causes it. And I have a theory I'll throw out there for you.
Okay.
And tell me what you think. I get your perspective on video games and things like that. But again, I'm always about kind of like simplification to try and find what is the root problem. And first off, I believe for the most part, depression is a first world problem. And I believe where it comes from is this basic victimhood mentality. And victimhood can play in many different ways. And pretty much overused term these days, but unless you not only know but accept the world is cold, hard, unfair, once you accept those things as that is the reality and not somehow you're supposed to operate perfectly in the world or get everything you want in the world, and instead say, well, here's the playbook. This is what I'm going to face. How am I going to thrive in that? Once you can break that barrier, the depression doesn't have its stranglehold on you.
Right.
And because, us raising kids, our parents raising us, life was not hard for them. Life's even easier for us. You mentioned technology, right? How much stuff can you do on your phone? You don't need to carry maps. You don't need to worry about where you're located to get an important phone call.
Don't have to go to the bank to find out how much money is in there. It's crazy.
But it makes life very easy for us. And we then, in turn, help make it easier for our kids. They don't have to get up in the morning and go out and farm.
Right.
They, their life, as everybody's life gets easier, then you have fewer and fewer stressors on your life, and you start, when things don't go your way, you start to feel like a victim.
Right.
And so that's my theory, is if you can just accept the reality that the world is cold, hard, and unfair, which also means it's unequal.
Right.
And it's never going to be different than that.
Right.
Then once you accept that, and then you start figuring out, how am I going to thrive in that environment?
Right.
You don't have time to be depressed anymore.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%. I really do. But how do you get people to agree? to see the world like that. That's the question. That's the harsh reality of it, is getting people to just, okay, this is how it is.
I think it's actually pretty simple. I mean, I do a lot of this stuff on my Facebook page to promote what it is I'm trying to get going, which is problem solving.
Right.
It's just to simply ask the question: Is the world cold, hard, and unfair? And if they say it's not, you go, okay, so tell me in the animal kingdom where being hunter or hunted on the brink of starvation most of your life is somehow not cold, hard, and unfair. Why should we expect it to be different for human beings? Take the issue of equality. Tell me anything outside of mathematics that is equal in this world.
I mean, if you're asking me, I'm going to tell you nothing, because I know.
And the reality is, I'll ask that question honestly and wait for somebody to tell me the answer. But if you can get agreement with somebody, yeah, there ain't anything equal, then I say, then what are you trying to solve? Something that you will never achieve. How much time, just like in the Air Force, how much time are you going to spend banging your head against the wall? And if you can't solve it, then what do? Learn how to thrive in it. It's a fact.
Right.
And so if I have a dialogue with somebody, simply getting agreement on some of those really basic things, like there's nothing equal. There's nothing equal in this world. So what can we do to learn how to improve ourselves and thrive in it? And in particular, if you're going to have a free society, a capitalist society, a democracy, that's freedom. And freedom means you can succeed or you can fail.
Right.
And many people do. I mean, look how many businesses fail just trying to get started. So I believe that is a critical lesson to teach our children.
Absolutely.
As opposed to everybody gets a trophy. Everybody's a winner.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's not to beat the crap out of your kids, but it's to go prepare them for
the
what
real
they're
world.
going to face.
Yeah.
And to some degree, prepare ourselves or talk to ourselves. So does that kind of make sense as to how, if I'm going to try and make my case to somebody, you get agreement on facts that are inconvenient or that people haven't thought about.
Right. No, yeah, no, it definitely does make sense. And that's kind of where I was going with, I guess, the video game age for the, new generation children is a lot of parents, and I'm not going to say everybody. I've been guilty of it, at some point in my life when my kids were younger, but they use, like I said, they use the video games, they use these electronics to babysit. And so they won't have to deal with them. And the kids, they get used to that. So they don't, you're not putting them in those situations to where that they realize that, hey, life's not unfair, because they simply think that, hey, I get to do what I want to. I'm going to stay in here and watch YouTube, and I'm not going to have to worry about any kind of, facing any kind of problems out in the world, because this is my life. I love watching Mr. Beast on YouTube or whatever the case may be. And parents, I think more parents need to be more involved with their kids in this day and age, because it is easy to, hey, I'm busy right now, or I don't feel like doing anything today. Here's YouTube, or here, go play Fortnite or whatever. And I do. I think that's a big thing that parents need to kind of step up on. I've had to step up on it myself. I mean, I have, and this is all speaking from experience. It's not like I'm condemning anybody for doing it, because I promise you, I've done it myself. That was kind of where I was kind of getting at. And I believe a lot of that depression stems off of that, because they're not put in those situations. And when they are put in them situations, they're not equipped to face it. So they kind of get back in their shell and like, okay, well, life's not hard when I'm watching YouTube. Life's not hard when I'm playing Fortnite. So I'm just going to kind of revert back to this. And these kids miss out on so many, life lessons that you were just talking about. That's kind of where I'm getting at. I'm not saying video games are the devil, because I mean, even as a grown man, I play them. Yeah, I play them.
You're going to two places I wanted to throw out there. Number one, it's human nature to want to do a lot of this stuff.
Right.
I mean, if anything we've learned in the pandemic, a lot of us, given the option, choose to be lazy.
Right, exactly. And a lot of it, I mean,
And and that's true with animals too, right? Like if they want to conserve their energy if they don't have to go hunt.
right.
And for men wanting, going back to something we had said before, you're gonna have to bring me back to my train of thought, but I wanted to make the point, women get to be nurturers by having kids. What do men get to go kill? Our basic instinct is best fulfilled in business.
Absolutely.
Business and then watching sports, but we don't really get to kill in sport. We get to play them, right?
Yeah.
But in business, you get to go annihilate your competition or try to.
Right.
So that's how you kind of fulfill that. So when it comes to being a parent, what role you play in raising your kids, I believe best suited with mom being the nurturer. If she wants a career, go find a substitute nurturer, right? They go to school, they go to daycare, that sort of thing. But for men, we really kind of want to and need, everybody wants meaningful work. But in order to kind of like fulfill that desire of killing something, because if I want food, I go to the grocery store. I mean, you go out and hunt, so you get some of that.
I get some
but
of it.
If I need food, it's not about me going and killing a dinosaur or something like that, right? I mean, so that kind of natural need isn't fulfilled as easily as it is a nurturer for a woman.
Right.
And I mean, to some degree, that can kind of masculinitize you. Is how, you know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But let me just throw out there, I've heard this before too. So what do you think is there anything wrong with babysitters?
Is there anything wrong with babysitters?
Yeah,
No.
like okay. Is there anything wrong with electronics?
No.
So when you put those two things together, right, and you think about it, yes, everything in moderation or in balance or whatever, too much of anything isn't good. But, I mean, back in the day when they had TV and they didn't have video games, people used to talk about the electronic babysitter. And I heard, again, kind of this inverse thinking. What's wrong with an electronic babysitter?
There's nothing wrong with it, but I will say I'm speaking on the fact of the parents that abuse that. Like there are parents that abuse that simply use it for an excuse not to do something with their kids. And I do believe that.
Sure. No, I don't disagree, but I think the critical thing that I heard you say is you make sure your kids get to sports practice, get to their drama practice. And I'm guessing you talk to them about it. And you're obviously in tune with your son because you understand that he thinks he's going to be number one all the time. Right. So you can have that conversation with him to prepare him for that experience, or you can let the experience play itself out. But the fact that you'll be there to talk to him about it afterwards, that doesn't require an enormous amount of time. It just requires that you care and that you're there. I've heard this said, and I believe this is very true. Who you are matters more than what you do as a parent.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can't completely fix that. Now you could probably try and make up for it somehow, but the simple fact that sports is important to you and your kids' happiness is important to you, and it's not you need to go to the museum, you need to learn to play the violin, you need to, read X number of books on that they have no interest in. But the fact that you as a person care not about trying to make your kids necessarily better than you were, but to learn the similar lessons that you've learned, to me is where your strength as a father really comes in.
Right, and that's the thing. I want my kids to be better than me. I mean, I really do in every aspect.
We all do, but we all were teenagers, and we know how everybody was. I mean, we may want that, they got to want it for themselves. And most of the time, we all turn out all right, even if we aren't better than our parents or we're the same as our parents.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, that kind of goes back to why I think it's important to learn critical thinking. And I think it's very important to understand money. And the fact that our school systems don't teach that very well, and parents oftentimes don't understand it very well, and they're in a bunch of debt or whatever. I mean, if there's one thing that money represents, it's freedom. And it's the ability to make choices in your life. It gives you opportunities to go, you know, I'm in a tough bind here. I'm going to lose my job. You know, am I going to be homeless or did I save money? You know, did I learn some of those skills? And I think that those are very, very important things that as fathers, we need to instill in our kids. And more importantly, if we don't understand those skills, care enough to go learn them ourselves. They're not hard. They're not incredibly hard. We just have to care enough to do it.
Roger that. And I'm going to stop you right there for a second, guys. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Gentlemen, many times we realize how we're not used to being. We have fatigue, we have weight gain, even if we're dieting and exercising like we're supposed to. And for many men, pills and prescriptions aren't working anymore for their ED. At Men's Wellness of North Alabama, we take the time to hear your concerns and get to the root of the problem, and we offer solutions. Call today for your free consult. Let's talk man to man and fix it. 256-366-2470 or mens-wellness.com.
And if you didn't get that number, that website, make sure you rewind. Hey, Josh Rogers is a good friend of mine. He has definitely helped my life out. He's helped me be a better father, a better husband, and a better man just through simple testosterone replacement therapy. So definitely give him a shout out if you're in the area. He will hook you up. And there we're back.
All right.
All right.
You know, I would like to kind of circle back to something that I didn't really get to completely emphasize regarding my choices and spouses, and how the Air Force really kind of played into that, because I would want your listeners to just consider, when something bigger than you beats you down, is not the time to make life decisions. And what I found is, when you're depressed, or when I was depressed, I didn't want to make decisions. So I actually, as I reflected back on it, believe both of the women that I ended up marrying and will have divorced and will divorce, I made those decisions when I was in a depressed state, because I don't want to think about stuff. They want control. And I actually believe both of my wives were gaslighters. We all kind of do it to some degree. But I think I picked extremes based on that. And I believe it's because I didn't face the reality of what the Air Force and the government was and what it was doing to me and how that actually impacted me. Now, I've said a lot of stuff about victims. I don't want to play the victim at all in that, because I made conscious decisions or bad decisions related to that sort of thing. But as I reflect on it, I do believe that had a pretty significant impact in getting me in my relationships to where I'm at today.
Rob. Yeah, man, it's definitely, man, marriage is definitely complicated. Definitely maybe complicated. I'm sure you probably had some of your faults in there too.
Oh yeah, no, don't. Yeah, I'm not a saint. I'm not a saint.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, guys, we are running on about an hour and 5 minutes, and that's just about as long as I like to keep my episodes. Man, David, I do appreciate you coming on here. We'd definitely like to hear back from you again. Maybe do a part 2, part 3, part 4. You're definitely,
awesome.
Definitely very knowledgeable, and I enjoy talking to you, man. It makes conversation easy. Like I said, it's been an hour and 4 minutes, and it don't seem like nowhere near that long.
Yeah, great. No, I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. I do appreciate it, guys. Well, until next time, guys, stay dad tough.
Thanks Thanks for tuning in to Dad Tough. If you liked the episode, don't forget to like and follow the Dad Tough podcast on Facebook and YouTube. You can also listen to every episode on all major platforms. Have an interest in being on the show or want advertising? Reach out by email at dadtoughpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, guys, stay Dad Tough.